Ardis Porter, your favorite Michigan Realtor, and we're here for another Talk About It Tuesday. I have my friend Todd here, and we're going to talk about new construction financing here in Michigan. How you doing, Todd?
Hey, not too bad. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you took the time out to help us today. Can you take a time to actually introduce yourself before we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. As Ardis was saying, my name is Todd Murawski. I work with Dart Bank. I've been in the mortgage industry for over 25 years. And, some of the things that I do and a lot of questions I get is quite a bit on new construction, which is a lot of our topics that we're going to be talking about here today. New construction is something that I do specialize in. I do mortgages for pretty much any other product that's out there, but new construction is something that's been part of me that I really enjoy and have been working on for the last 15 years.
Okay, that's awesome. We're gonna get it started. I like to do a little Q&A, and we'll just get started with the basics. What makes new construction financing different from a traditional home loan?
Yeah, certainly. So, new construction, versus when you get a regular home loan itself, the house is already built. You kind of get to do your inspections and everything with the house is already built with the nuts and bolts of it. Right? They're already completed. With a new construction, it's really basically dirt from the very beginning. And so we're doing the financing on the whole entire project from the time the shovel is put in the ground until the house is completed and you're moving into the home itself. So there's a lot of stuff going on at the very beginning that sounds like a lot of work itself, but we have a product in our specialized time frame that builds everything together, so it comes together very stress free and calming.
Okay, cool. How or what types of new construction loans do you specialize in, and what buyers typically qualify?
Yeah, I specialize in a lot of different new construction loans. We do have fixed rate mortgages. We also have ARMs. Also we have the construction to perm loans. We also do lot loans. So we do it all within our bank, and basically we're specialized in those. And being the fact that we do one product, it makes sense that we do offer all those. Typically, a buyer who qualifies for something like that, they usually have good credit and stable income. But just like most programs, we consider someone's credit, their income, and their assets. And a lot of times it could be a first time home buyer, it could be a second or third time home buyer that's looking to upgrade their house, or even somebody who's looking to downgrade to, the retirement home. It's stuff that we do.
For sure, because I see a lot of new construction, ranch style homes that seem to be very popular for those downsizing into new construction. From your experience, what's one thing most people don't realize about buying a new construction home?
Well, the misconception is, I think, is they don't realize with building a new house how long it actually takes. And so sometimes they're expecting it, it takes longer due to permitting or the construction time restraints. And that can actually impact someone's financing and their the major plan of how to get things taken care of. But I do think it's important for a buyer to be very patient. And in my opinion, I think it's more important for a buyer not to sacrifice quality, even if that means stretching out that construction time period versus trying to rush the house to be done for time process, the timeline itself.
That makes sense. Um, how do construction loans work? Do buyers make payments while the home is being built?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a construction loan is it can be high risk, mainly because as we described earlier today, we start from the ground up, from the time the shovel's put in the ground to the house is already done, and there's a lot of building going on, permitting stages, everything that goes. One of the things that we protect the buyers and how us as the bank are protected is we don't give the money to the builder to build the house. We actually do quite the opposite. We actually have the builder do the work and we reimburse them for the work that's already completed during that construction time period. So that being said, the buyer is only responsible paying for the part that the builder's taking out on the draw. So the buyer, it's actually a little bit cheaper and expensive for a customer to go out and build because they're not paying on the entire mortgage. They're only paying on the part that's been used up. And that payment is also manageable because it's interest only on only the part that's been drawn out on. which is anywhere from $200 to $300 for every $50,000 that's taken out, depending on what the interest rates are doing.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. So this is the part where I get educated as well. Um, and then how is the down payment handled with new construction homes?
Yeah, a down payment for new constructions are very similar to what it is for a traditional mortgage, which is kind of surprising because the risk levels are different. But at the end of the day, we're doing the financing on the end mortgage itself. So it can be as little as 5% down to whatever somebody wants to put down that's very comfortable for them. In my opinion, it's important for a buyer to maintain liquidity and find out what their main goal is, how much down payment that cost for savings is really going to be for them. And typically speaking, 10% down gets them to the lowest interest rate point break. So what I mean by that is if somebody is putting, five or putting 10% down versus putting 20% down, that interest rate is going to be about the same. And then also a 10% down, in most programs we offer, if it does avoid PMI insurance during construction. So it's a good
That's
way
all.
to live during that time period.
That's awesome to know because, a lot of people, for one, don't know you can get in with 5% down payment. And then for two, think that I have to at least have 20% to get those better rates. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's good information. What are the credit score and income requirements that buyers should expect for a new build?
You know, credit scores they should be strong. Typically, if we want to look at about 660 credit score or stronger. We also have stable income that's there. I mean, we want to make sure that somebody's going to have a place to live during construction. So that does play a little bit of a attack on how that debt to income ratios are going to be calculated. But more importantly, it's not just about the credit and the income. It's also about the assets. So we essentially do look at all three of those, and it's got to make sense. It's got to make sense for the buyer and make sure that they're not overspending in that aspect. And then also in most cases, sometimes buyers they don't know what their spending levels are, so it's important to get pre-approved at the beginning stages so they can kind of start planning their goals.
Yes, I tell people all the time, I'm a very important part of the transaction, but you got to talk to the loan officers because they can help you set up your plan first. So, yeah. Um, are there special loan programs or incentives that new construction buyers can get here in Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan does offer various loan programs, incentives for new construction, but they kind of seem like they come and go. It's usually like a first come first serve kind of basis itself. And a lot of times when it comes to grants here in Michigan, it's based on the availability. It's also on the location, based on the income levels and where they meet the median income levels itself. My recommendation is look at the options. Talk to me to find out, here's what you qualify for. I'll go over all that with the customer to make sure that we're not leaving money out on the table itself. But there is funds out there available for somebody.
Okay, that's awesome to know. How early should a buyer get pre-approved before starting to work with a builder or a realtor?
My opinion, I think it should be one of the first steps that takes place. And I'm a very goal oriented person when it comes to the financing itself because you got to know what your spending limits are, and a person can build anything that they want to go ahead and build, but it's going to cost them money to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And I look at that example of like when you walk into the house, your dream house itself, it costs money to be able to do that. And if you walk in a dream house and then suddenly you can't have it, that can be very disappointing to people. So my recommendation, we do things as a soft pull credit report itself, which allows us to look at someone's credit, their income, and their assets, and to be able to know where that goal is and work in understanding those goals. That's really should be one of the first steps.
Yes, I agree. How do how do rate locks work with new construction? Since the building process can be a little longer.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, with one of the things that's unique about us here at Dart Bank is you kind of get to go ahead and lock it, not kind of, you get to lock in at today's interest rates based on what's happening on here. But once when the house is done, completed, we have an option where the buyer can float down their interest rate, and we modify that interest rate, which is kind of important because it's not a refinance. Refinance actually has costs associated to it, where modification does not. So while we're into that period of time of converting the mortgage from construction to a regular mortgage, it does give that opportunity where a buyer can take care of, get both best of both worlds. Meaning, if the rates drop, they get that lower rate. But if the rates are higher at that time period, well, they're already locked in. They don't need to do anything. So it's really a very good way for somebody to take advantage of today's market, meaning that as inflation's coming up and cost is increasing, well, as the market keeps saying, the interest rates are going to drop. They can kind of take advantage of that well as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What happens if the home isn't finished by the time the rate lock expires?
So the rate lock itself, I guess let me explain from the construction standpoint itself. In order to buy a definition of a mortgage, you have to have four walls and a roof, right? And right now, that person typically during the building process has dirt, so they don't have those four walls and a roof that is livable. And what constitutes that is what they call a certificate of occupancy. So that house has to be completed within a period of time. For our rates wise, we are locked in for the life of the mortgage itself. That being said, if things are taking extremely long, there could be some expenses for like inspections that may expire that you might have to update the appraisal and take care of those costs associated to those.
Is it important for
But
buyers
with
to
us,
still work with their
it's
own
very
realtor,
affordable.
even
There's
when the
other lenders
builder
out
has
there
an
that charge
in-house
a lot of
lender or
money
sales
for
rep?
extensions. Yeah, that's a great question. I think
That's
just like
great
in
to know.
anything else, you
So
got to work
remember
with
Dark
somebody that
Bank
you like
when
and you
you're looking
trust.
for a new
And
construction
when you
loan.
have your as a real estate agent of what you're doing as your profession, you have a relationship with a buyer, and they know you, they like you, and they trust you, and you have their back. And I think that is one of those most important aspects to keep and maintain that clientele and help with the negotiation process for sure.
Yeah. I always like to say they have someone representing them. You should have someone representing you.
Absolutely.
All right. What questions should buyers ask their lender before committing to a new construction home loan?
Well, I think with new construction loans, buyers usually don't make the full mortgage payments during the build process itself. So I think it's important for a buyer to understand that process, and they need to sit and they need to talk to somebody that they know and understand. And I think that's for me as a mortgage banker itself. I love questions. I think it's important for somebody to understand what they're getting into, where the payments, how their payments start, where they break down, what's their rate, and what is their goal and how to finance and figure out the best steps to be able to do that itself. So I think it's important for those buyers to ask those questions and get those answers straightforward.
Yes. And I talked to you about, that I'm also a registered nurse, and that's something that like I put deep into myself too. I like explaining what's going on because you want to be informed. This is a very important transaction. You want to be as informed as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Are there any hidden costs or fees buyers should watch out for during the process?
There shouldn't be. I think again, being straightforward and having those conversations of understanding what their rate is, what their cost is, there really shouldn't be anything that's surprising to where it comes to like breaking down cost for the mortgage wise. Regards to building the house itself, yeah, there's costs for building, but those are things that a builder is going to go through and break that down in the contract to make sure they understand it. So my piece of advice would be for somebody when they're talking, just talk about a loan estimate. What is the cost of breaking this down for the mortgage? And so they can understand, they can kind of compare that to see where it is. And they should be able to get an explanation of what each fee is and what those costs are from the very beginning. So there are no surprises related to that.
Yeah. That's why, we have our buyers consultation meetings and things like that it seems like, oh, I gotta talk to somebody for 30 minutes to an hour, but you really need to be informed when you're making these decisions again. So
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. It's the more you know, right?
yes. What advice would you give someone thinking about building their dream home today and might be feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think understand their goals, And when you talk about goals, it's not just about the mortgage payment. It's not just about the interest rate. It's not just about the closing costs. It's the whole picture. How long, what is their goal for building this house? How long do they plan on being in the house? Is this a 5 year period of time or for a home? Is this something that they're building for the rest of their life, or where that plan to go? And understanding that, the market conditions, the costs associated to it, and essentially just take it one step at a time. Don't rush it. I think that's the biggest thing itself, and understanding what the goal.
Yeah. I like that answer. I like the answer about the goals and the bigger picture. I like that. Um, and of course, before we close out, how can buyers get in touch with you if they're interested in not just new construction home loans, but loans, period?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a phone person, and I actually like to have that one-on-one contact. And my phone number is 810-656-6701. They also can reach me on my website, which is just my first and last name, toddmurawski.com, and also by email. Many different ways to get a hold of me, and please, if they have any questions, my phone's always available for sure.
Awesome. Again, I want to thank you, Todd, for taking time out of your day to spend with me.
Oh, it's been great. I greatly appreciate the opportunity and answering questions that you might have, and look forward to definitely working with your next buyer for sure.
That's awesome. So you guys know how to get in touch with Todd now. And of course, when you're ready to actually go tour the homes and start your home journey, then you can reach out to me at 810-522-3407. It's been another Talk About It Tuesday. See you next week.